All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Pi Day. I'm very excited to bring you today's broadcast. Unfortunately, our special guest, Sam Snyder from Raspberry Pi, is dealing with some real world issues that are not horrible, but will indeed, unfortunately, make it a little hard to get connected. But we're going to get her on here. And in the meantime, let's get started. Today is Pi Day. Happy Pi Day to you. And the last year has brought an incredible range of new releases from Raspberry Pi. So I'm just going to run down the list really quick, and I'm not even sure that I'm going to cover everything. I tried to write them all in the description to this video, but even so, there are a couple of glaring omissions that I'm going to correct now, and I'm sure that there are other ones as well. In fact, I just thought of a third one. Like, they've been on fire. And let's take a quick look at all the different stuff they've been announcing over the past year. So if you go to Raspberry Pi's blog, raspberrypi.com/news, you can see some of these, but gathering them all in one place, more or less, we've got multiple versions of the Raspberry Pi 5 with different levels of memory available. There's the Pi 500 and monitor. So the Pi 500 is the new version of Raspberry Pi's uh, computer in a keyboard form factor, which harkens back to the early days of personal consoles, and is so cool. So basically, it looks like a Raspberry Pi keyboard, but it has a Pi inside of it, and it's got the headers exposed and stuff in a different. They're aligned to the back instead of the top of the computer. So the Pi 500 is the update to the 400 from before, and then they've also got the first time Raspberry Pi has released a monitor. Uh, Bringing the full suite, like the full desktop suite to the Pi. You've got the Raspberry Pi power supply, you've got the brain, you've got keyboard and mouse, which have been around for ages. This year, you've also got Raspberry Pi, like proprietary uh, branded SSDs and micro SD cards. So even your storage, from power to storage to like your human input devices, all this, you can now get official Raspberry Pi versions of those. There's also a 4-way USB hub, so if you want to make sure that you can break out your peripherals and stuff. There's an AI kit and AI camera. Part of the AI kit is this M.2 HAT Plus. There's a new standard for Raspberry Pi add-ons equivalent to BeagleBone capes or Arduino shields. The Raspberry Pi HAT now has an updated uh, protocol, an updated format called the HAT Plus. So that's all new. And then also there was a Halo 8 plugin module for that enables it to do some extra AI processing. There's also an integrated one-piece HAT Plus that does that without having to plug stuff in over M.2, but that M.2 HAT Plus is how you also plug in the SSD module. What else have we got? There's so much more. Uh, the touch display 2, which I've got here, the RP2350, the new sibling to the RP2040, which is remaining in production, the Pico 2 and 2W, the Compute Module 5, and then I also mentioned the SSD and micro SD card storage. There's also the other thing I thought of, might not be huge to many people, but there's a bumper, like a silicone bumper that you can attach to your Pi to insulate it from stuff that's on your desk. Make sure you're not getting any shorts from between your Pi and whatever thing you throw it in, and or of course shield it from mechanical shock as well. So all these things and more that I'm certain I've forgotten have come out in just the past year. It's ludicrous. So I've got some fun like things to show off here in the studio. One of them is like I'm using one of these old camera cases for my touch display too, which, as the name implies, has 5 touch inputs. So you can like use all your little grabby fingers on it at once if you want to do like pinch and zoom. It also has an on-screen keyboard, which is something that prior touch displays for the Pi were not supported with multi-touch input, at least the official one. And so now you can now you don't have to lug around one of those tiny little keyboard and mouse combination thingies, which I love. There are some really good ones of them, but also I've found that the trackpad tends to sort of die in some inconvenient ways, or you lose the little Bluetooth dongle that plugs into the Pi, and then you don't know which one goes with which, and then it's horrible. And so, like, lots of cool updates here. We have a question about what will we present? The 5? So this is a Pi Day celebration of sort of the entire last year of Raspberry Pi, and we're gonna cover some interesting stuff from Sam, who is unfortunately dealing with some internet issues. We're hopefully going to get her on and like chat about some cool stuff. But then I also have some cool things to show off. So I do actually have a Pi 5 with 16 gigs of RAM. I haven't opened this one up yet because they have other versions with less RAM that I have been messing around with, including this one that's plugged into the Touch Display 2 in my box here. But I've also got a Raspberry Pi 4 on my desk for other nefarious reasons, which I'm happy to share. In fact, while we're waiting, why don't we let me pull up my comms here and see how we're doing on the internet situation over there. Uh, Power restored. Oh, sweet. Sounds like we might have Sam in a moment anyway. But I can show you really quick a thing that I've been working on. This isn't much to look at. It's just a Pi 4B plugged into power. But this is running something that's really cool inside the micro SD card here. It's a 256 gig micro SD card. And what this is running is a server that serves all of Wikipedia to Wi-Fi. So check it out. I've got it running this app called Kiwix. And you can get this as an app for things as well, but you can also, they have pre-built Raspberry Pi images, one of which is free. It's an 8 gig sort of stripped down version of Wikipedia. And then they've also got ones that are like 200 gigabytes. So this one happens to serve Wikipedia plus a bunch of other interesting stuff. So basically you connect, it serves a hotspot over Wi-Fi that runs locally, doesn't require any like external internet connection. So you hit got it, and then you go to kiwix.hotspot in your browser. And I'm going to do that. Open. And then immediately I'm able to access all this content, including like a library of notes, you got amateur radio information, and then you've got tons of stuff around like, where's Wikipedia? It also has iFixit on there. So they've got a whole bunch of iFixit content, as well as you can see pardon my tacky blue tape over the camera, but this is all running on that Pi. That's just serving it over a Wi-Fi network that it's created. And so you can look up like cinematography. Let's look up cinematography or architecture or books. Oh man, there's so much. What about magic, illusion? Check it out. And you can just browse through this. This is all running locally. Love it. So what I'm doing right now actually is I'm designing an enclosure for that. We're just going to kick it off with a project for funsies. This is an enclosure that I'm designing for Kiwix because their little logo is a kiwi bird. And so I've been learning to use Nomad Sculpt for 3D printing. And it's just like a little, very janky looking at this point. Full disclosure, this is the second thing I've ever modeled in Nomad Sculpt, so I'm learning to make organic forms. I've typically used Onshape, and a browser-based 3D CAD modeling tool in the past. So let's see, we're still waiting on the Wi-Fi. That's cool. What is the Knots library? So one of the things in the Kiwix server on here is a Knots library. I'm just going to go back a couple. And it's one of many things that is included in their, I think this is one that is called actually the Prepper package, but you just click on it there, and then you've got like all these different knots and things that you can learn from here. It's a PDF, it looks like. It also, I think, serves the apps, so you can download the apps for Kiwix, but that is but one of many things going on with Raspberry Pi. But personally, that's the thing that I've been getting up and running in the past couple of months. So I'm very excited about Kiwix and about all the rest of the stuff they've got going on too. Originally, I was setting up this this Pi with the Touch Display 2 so that I could have it serve Kiwix. But it turns out that it's headless. It runs without a display, so you don't even have to hook it up to a display at all, or a mouse and keyboard or anything. You literally just, ha ha ha, we've got Sam. Hello, Samantha Snyder. How's it going?
Hi. Good. Other than sorry everyone, my the power to my block went out for about 15 minutes, one minute
Man,
before this live stream.
that is such a random and unfortunate thing to happen, but I'm so glad that you've made it. How's it going? Other than that.
Good. Yeah. Other than that, it's actually it's always very interesting to see like as everybody else's power comes on, just seeing all of the Wi-Fi networks suddenly come online as well. Like it's like searching for Wi-Fi. There's not a network, and then suddenly there's 20 of them.
Love it.
Like to see whose boots faster. Yeah.
We've got a lot of people excited about various stuff. David is jumping in saying, "I'm looking forward to the 2350 section," and we'll see what we've got here. So, there's a ton of stuff to talk about. I literally just listed off all the different stuff that y'all have released this year that I could remember. You know,
Oh yeah.
I'm sure there's more, but I got all the way down to the bumper before I was like, okay, that's probably most of it. But I only briefly referenced the AI camera, but that's like a whole thing in and of itself. That's like a huge step forward. Like there's all these different things that you can do with various uh, of the new releases this year, but like some of them are like the bumper or the hub where they like help you build stuff. But like yeah, and then the camera I feel like is like a huge, massive step forward with that Sony chip. But anyway, so let's see.
Yeah.
What if we just start out with like you've had so many releases in the past year.
22
Um,
and yeah, we did 22 releases in 2024, I think. Yeah.
dang.
We were busy.
Um, yeah. And you IPO'd last year as well. So
Yeah, yeah, it was we decided that, like why go slow? Just we like we just try to do as many things as possible. But no, I mean it was a really fun year. There were some parts that were obviously I think Q4 is when we launched almost half of those 22 products. What it felt like anyway, we're releasing a product every couple of weeks.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it was really cool. I mean, we've grown so much over the past couple of years, and now we have these like very clear different market segments. So like we used to have mostly just like the flagship board and a couple of accessories, but now we have stuff for industrial and enterprise. We have stuff for the maker, like hobbyist enthusiasts. We have stuff for education and schools, and then we have the microcontroller lines. Now it's like the ecosystem is growing quite rapidly, and it's fun. It's never boring.
Awesome. I bet, yeah. So one of the things that you released this year is the Raspberry Pi monitor. It's the first time that you've released one of those. You've done touch displays, you've done keyboard and mouse for years and years, obviously powered adapters. There's also like new storage options, but I'm really curious, like the monitor to me is like, why now? Like, do you have a public reason for why the monitor would come out this year?
Yeah, so the timing was a couple of factors. So I think the monitor came about when during COVID, we started sending out these bundles to kids that didn't have a home computer, where we would package
Mm,
Raspberry Pi, all the necessary accessories, and a monitor. And so we had to source monitors, and we were like, oh, like, and they're big and they're bulky, and they're the largest thing in shipping, and they're pretty expensive. And so we were like, man, it's like going to be convenient if we just had our own monitors. So that's kind of, I think,
mm,
where we started thinking about making our own monitor. Um, and then timing wise, I think it came down to having hardware engineers that had experience in making a monitor. And then also just waiting for component costs to come back in line, because obviously everything that we make, we want to make sure that it's affordable.
right,
Um, and so I think that was mostly because the Raspberry Pi, the way that our when we make a new product, the engineer is kind of the product manager. So they own the hardware
right.
engineer owns the design from start to finish, the whole thing. It's all their baby. It gets reviewed by the other engineers, but for the main part, it's like it's all theirs from concept to finished good. Um, and so yeah, I think it and then we basically we launch products when they're ready, and so it was ready, and so then we launched it. But yeah, I don't think there wasn't a
Awesome.
specific like this date is a special date. It was just everything lined up to be in last quarter, this quarter. Yeah, gosh, like everything's blended together.
That makes a ton of sense, yeah, and honestly, that seems like the best possible answer. That like, we waited until we were ready and then we did it. So yeah, uh, it reminds me that there used to be this Pi Top Seed, but I think they've discontinued that
Yeah,
entirely. Like that was the one that
yeah.
I used to see.
Yeah, I remember those guys. Yeah. I think I remember talking to I think one of the co-founders, Jesse. And one of my favorite factoids about him was that when he was trying to get an investment, they were like, "Oh, like how do we know that you you have the grit to be like a startup founder because you haven't done
Mm.
this before. He was like, so like I'm in like the top like 10 like highest ranked players in World of Warcraft. So I think I can do and like he wouldn't ever tell me what his username was because he's like, nah, I've moved on from that. But he's like, but yeah, I gave them, they had to like, because they were under NDAs, they were allowed to know what his username was to double check it. And he's like, and that worked. That worked.
There was an NDA that covered his
Yeah.
World WoW
I mean, I think
username.
just in general they had an NDA, not specifically
Mhm,
for
mhm,
that. But
mhm.
yeah, he was very
I love that
secretive
that's in
about what
there.
his username was. But I thought that was like, the best origin story for a startup ever.
Amazing. Oh man. Speaking of displays, so I didn't realize it was even boot, but I have a couple of fun little different cyberdeck type things here that I thought would be fun to
Oh, I
show.
love
So
cyberdecks.
I know, right? So this one is actually from Twilio Signal, like their conference from like 5, 6, 7 many years ago. Uh, many years ago. But yeah, there've been all these different things that are like this one works with the stylus and this one works with like this is actually the new one of the newer Clockwork Pi devices and they've been going strong. You look on Hackster and like half our articles about Raspberry Pi are about cyberdecks and stuff. So that's a huge area where people are still exploring and experimenting. So I think that the fact that you had two different displays come out this year is just like gonna feed that fire even more, especially the touch display too, though. So I'm personally very excited about that one.
Yeah, I think also seeing people push the microcontroller series to the limits of running displays has also been really interesting. That you don't
Mm.
need, you know, like a full mini computer. Um, and so that's and yeah, that's been I think one of the coolest things the past couple of months is just seeing how many uh, new projects and new designs are based off of the 2040 and the 2350.
Ooh, I gotta check that out. In the meantime, we've got this news site pulled up from Raspberry Pi.
Oh
One of the
yeah.
cool things that you've been talking a lot about, well, actually, okay, so first off, there's kind of an announcement about this coolest projects thing, which I wasn't aware of until we started planning this stream. But I guess Avnet is sponsoring this or co-sponsoring this, and it's a series of events that you're running, and also there's a big virtual event as well. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
I can tell you a little bit at a high level. So, Coolest Projects is actually put on by the Raspberry Pi Foundation.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess that might be good background for anyone who's not aware. There's also a really good blog post where Evan Upton, the CEO of like Raspberry Pi, thing now that we IPO'd, we're called, we were limited. I think it's, but there's like the for-profit business, and then there's the foundation, and the for-profit business
Hmm.
is the technology company. And previously we were, you know, like our majority shareholder was the foundation. They still own a very large amount of our shares. I think if you go into our numbers, you can see how much that is. But the like they so a large portion of our profit, like of the profit share, still goes to the foundation. But the foundation does more of the education and like kind of kid focused stuff, whereas we do a lot more of the technology, uh, more adult maker hobbyist stuff. Um, but the coolest projects has been around for a long time. It used to be a lot more
Ah,
kind of like physically, um, like physical projects, and they used to highlight it, I think, on a weekly stream. And now I think the kind of like new revamped version, my understanding of it is that it's now more um, kids can like build games and have like digital projects because the foundation has this huge push for, you know, teaching kids to code. And the cool thing about the Raspberry Pi Foundation is they're actually platform agnostic. Obviously, a lot of their stuff is tailored for Raspberry Pis, but if you're making on an Arduino, on Adafruit boards, on you know, on a microbit, on, you know, whatever it is, like that, thrilled,
yeah.
thrilled. You know, like as long as people are getting into STEM, very happy about it. Um, yeah, I think the coolest projects, yes, the one that they're doing right now, a lot of that is also like where kids can submit their digital projects to showcase.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's the foundation does some of the like some of the coolest stuff. And one of the things that I think is really special about the foundation is that when they do good works, they also do a lot of research to make sure like what they're doing is actually having an impact. Because like one of the problems that I think
Hmm.
a lot of charities have is that they they try a lot of different things, but it's very difficult to measure the impact that you're having. And so I think at the
Yeah.
bottom of the raspberrypi.org website is a whole bunch of transparency stuff where they can show the results of, like we invested this and this and we did this and like this thing worked and this thing didn't work. And I think their like reporting that they do at the end of the year also has like goes pretty in depth about that, to make sure
Awesome.
that um, like if they are spending any money that it's working.
Yeah. I was just looking at the a couple of blog posts that you have about this. So I'll put these links in the description, everyone, for later. But there is a post from last June from Eben about it that's sort of like a little quick intro to the situation. And then also you can go watch this video. But also there is a post on raspberrypi.org about what an IPO means
Yep.
for the Raspberry Pi Foundation. For those who, like me, have been curious about what the difference is, here is your chance to go check it out. I will drop it in the description so you can just click over if you're watching the replay. Very
Yeah, it's going
cool.
to be much more informative than me trying to like hit all of the highlights.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm certainly not that familiar with it myself, so I'll also be learning some things. But yeah, so coolest projects. And as you mentioned, you can go apply for the online showcase now through May 28th, 2025. So lots of time to go do that. Uh, it almost, if it were June, it would be Tau Day, which would be very appropriate. But anyway,
Oh, that's very true. Yeah.
maybe someday. But doesn't quite make sense for Raspberry Pi. But anyway, so there's a number of other things going on. There's a ton of new projects. Let's talk a little bit about the RP2350, if you don't mind. So let me pull up this page, and we've got. So the huge boost in the RP2350, among other things, is that you've got two cores, or you've got two ARM Cortex M33 cores. Let me actually pull this up, and then also you've got RISC-V on there. And then also upgraded PIO, the programmable IO, which I have yet to fully wrap my head around. But yeah, tell us about just like the cool stuff here, if you
Oh
wouldn't
man.
mind.
So this is I am mostly an SBC girly, and microcontrollers are something that
Ah,
I use for project dependent things.
mm-hmm.
Um, but I think the biggest thing is probably like what you hit, the fact that it's you now have the M33 cores. It's only 10 cents more
Nice.
than the 2040, so like the cost. And then we also have the option for onboard flash. Um, yeah, see, look at that. You're like going right through it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So for programmable IO, the way that I describe it is like it's just like it's software defined IO, right? So
Uh-huh.
you can like make you instead of them being set ahead of time, um, you can change them. Uh, I've only played around with it once when we were like on the 2040, not on the 2350. I know I'm a heretic. I'm so sorry, guys. I probably should have
That's
like
so no worries. I'm putting you
um
on the spot here with the
I know. I probably should brought one of the ASIC engineers with me. Been like, it's fine, it's evening
well,
your time. You can just hop on this call.
you can see my own struggles with this with David Groom, who was an amazing co-host last year for Pi Day. We dug into the Pico 2 with Circuit Python, which is also something that I haven't spent a ton of time with. And so you can see at the end there, we did make it all get working and stuff, but it took me a minute. But if people are interested, you can go check out our live hack from last year, see me like muddle
I
my
also,
way through.
yeah, I think we also could just do, if you guys, if you or Hackster, anyone was interested, we could just do a completely separate 2350
Ooh.
stream and get like some of the engineers who are behind it, including I think Luke Wren does a really good one, and
Mm.
he's behind the Hazard 3 Risk 5 course.
I
Um,
also have, oh yeah. I've
go
also
ahead.
got a interview from someone at that Raspberry Pi booth from Maker Faire Bay Area last year that I would love to edit up and actually get onto to the page.
That's
So watch out for
yeah,
that.
that's Chris Boros. Yes.
There we
Also,
go.
he's like our head of silicon in terms of like product management. Uh he actually, so he was around, he was in like around he was around in the Broadcom days, I guess.
Mm.
He lives in the Bay Area, has for like 20 years. He was around. That's how he knew a lot of the team. For people who don't know, a lot of the Raspberry Pi management and engineers are Broadcom alumni. And I guess Chris also worked there, and he was part of the team that made the original Raspberry Pi happen.
Ha. I love getting all this background info. Like, there was, I think, at that same, possibly that same Maker Faire I got, Eben on camera talking about the different Pink Floyd themed chips that Raspberry Pi has produced. You've got, I think there's a, is there a Waters, or is that the one that there isn't? But the latest one was the Gilmore, and that made me so happy.
Yeah, actually, it's so cool. So like Evan loves coming. Our like CEO loves coming to events. He especially loves Maker Faire. And it's so cool because like even after we IPO'd, he's like, "No, I'm still going to events." And he comes in the morning and helps us set up. Like I have pictures of him where he's just like happily setting up the the monitors and the pies and like just because we had the monitors previewed I think at Bay Area and at a
Uh-huh.
couple other shows as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he loves attending shows and like talking to people in person. Is very important to him that he still stays like very close to the maker community and the hobbyists. So, and he's an excellent worker. He's very good at like being at the booth and like helping set up and helping tear down.
There you go, people. You can always stand to spend more booth time. I've honestly tended to be a little bit allergic to it, but I should, well, Hackster rarely has a booth, but it's fun to hang out at those sometimes, and you get to speak to such a broad section of the attendees and stuff. Um, but yeah, so let's see. Just wrapping up the RP2040 things here, you can get not only the chips and various packages and amounts of flash and stuff, but you can also check out all these different third-party ones, and there's a link to a whole catalog of those, as well as the specs, so check that out. Ha ha ha. I've known about Pimeroni making some really cool ones, and like Adafruit's been making various types of breakouts based on RP2040 and RP2350. For example, the I think it was the RP2040 based macro pad that they made a couple of years ago was really cool. But there's all kinds of different stuff. I've seen uh, RP23 2040 based modular synthesis modules and stuff like that. Ah, this is the one I was
Yeah,
thinking of.
I think oh yeah, Pimerony and Adafruit. I mean, all of so many of our partners make really like great stuff, but Pimerony always makes their stuff extra cute, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then one of my favorites that we've had so far is actually the Tiny Circuits Thumby 2. So like the little like
Oh,
they did a Game Boy, the Thumby, the original one on the
it
2040, and then
has.
the Thumby 2 is like a Game Boy Advance. I think yeah, and so I think the folks from Tiny Circuits, they actually had a prototype at uh the 2016 Open Hardware event in Denver. I remember I have
Hmm.
like a picture because I had a picture of it where they had like 3D printed out the little case and everyone loved it. It was so cute. And they were just starting like fine tuning it. So like it was so cool to see that the original Thumby and then now the Thumby 2. And they have a special place in my heart because I'm from Ohio and they're from Akron, Ohio. So
Yeah, yeah,
and they make
yeah.
everything so tiny and cute.
They really do. Oh, I gotta pull those up at some point. I was just digging around. I was like, where is my Thumby? It is the cutest thing. And if you bust it out, like that and the Ardu Boy are both pretty popular, but
Yes,
the Thumby especially because it's so extremely teeny tiny and it's
I
like on a
have.
little keychain.
I think I have one like in packaging somewhere.
Let me pull up their site because they got so much cute, like you were talking about, so much cute stuff. I can't remember whether we actually ended up giving away any of this stuff for our Hackster holidays thing in December, or if they were already sold out of everything because they're
Yeah,
very like, look at
uh,
it. Trying not to screech too much.
I know.
But like,
It's so
oh
tiny.
man.
It's very cute.
Ah, where's the original Thumby on here? Because there we go. There's also, you can go to Thumby.tv or Thumby.us, I think, one of those. Here
Yeah.
we
Oh yeah,
go.
there's
And
this so little.
they've got a teal one. Ah, okay. Keep it together, Alex.
I know. Well, it's so hard because they're so cute.
They're so cute.
Their
Oh, the new
entire product
clear
line, even the
one.
stuff that doesn't
Oh
have
no.
Raspberry Pi stuff in it, like still cute. All of it's cute. Highly
Oh
recommend.
no, it's too cute. Okay, yeah. So I'm very excited to hear that there's a new one. Oh man. There's all kinds of stuff I have pulled up here, but I realize that we're kind of pushing it on time. So let's take a look at some of the highlights that I was interested in jumping around to here. So we did recently have the 150th issue of Magpie slash Hackspace, and now there's also a new name, the Raspberry Pi official magazine, and I'm having a little bit of trouble like disentangling what all the different
Yeah.
ones are and how they. Yeah.
So now this is just now we have one. So that was like that for that reason is why we now have like this
Aha.
one magazine to rule them all. So we well there was a lot of overlap between if you had the Magpie and then if you also had the Hackspace subscriptions. Um, there there was quite a lot of overlap because the editorial team is completely like independent, right? So they can write about whatever they want. They can say whatever they
Mm-hmm.
want. They're not there's no um, incentives or anything like that, or like rules around, like you have to use only Raspberry Pi stuff. You have to, like they are allowed to be completely independent in their reviews. But then that means that sometimes like the review team on one might be doing the same review as the other. And so like if you are subscribed to both, then like you might occasionally get very similar content. So we were
Right.
like, what if we just consolidated it into one? And so then we had, I think it was, we had a couple of covers that said Magpie plus Hackspace.
Yeah,
And
this
now it's just
one.
the official Raspberry Pi. Uh,
Nice.
yes, yeah.
Oh
And
no,
so
that's too cool.
I know it has a lot of our like greatest hits going on in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of it was also just trying to make the branding a little bit more cohesive. So, like Raspbian is now Raspberry Pi OS. Everyone still calls it
Yeah.
Raspbian. That's fine. We still love everyone who says that. Um, oh yes, Bus Pirate. Yep, that was sorry, I just saw it in the comments. Yeah, that was that we gosh, I love those folks. And I think
Oops.
they were very helpful as well about like because a lot of these folks obviously got early access, so they were very helpful in evaluating the chips. They came up in a lot of emails where they were super helpful. Yeah, no, exactly.
We've got
Um,
jumperless on Curad supply now. Very cool.
gosh, that was a very successful campaign.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Woo. But yeah, good stuff. And the
Yeah,
bus pirate, is that one of the Pimeroni things, or am I mixing it up with something else?
that one is the. Now I'm confused. I was like, I didn't think so. I
I'm
thought that
coming
was
up with
the.
random stuff. I actually
I,
sent over a list of questions, and I'm just hitting Sam with kind of some random things now. So that is
I was
all on
like,
me.
I don't think so. No, because I'm like,
There we
I'm
go.
thinking
It's
like their
different.
username on Twitter, but not on like, I'm like, what is their actual name in real life? This is embarrassing. You ever have people where you meet them in events and you're like, they tell you their first name and you're like, what?
Oh
And
yeah.
then
Oh
they
no.
you
Absolutely.
have to give the, yeah, they have their handle and you're like, oh, okay, this now makes, yep.
Yeah, absolutely. We also have a shout out for Ohio from Ginger. Hey, Ginger! Ginger is the awesome member of the Hackster team who set up this chat and also runs our pro program. She is hugely cool. Good to see you. And we've got a happy Pi Day message from LinkedIn. Good stuff. So let's see what else. We got the Pi 500. Oh yeah. So I was curious. Let's pull up the Pi 500 real quick. Mhm. So this is as I mentioned a little while ago, we've got a new version of the sort of computer in a keyboard form factor, which was started with the Raspberry Pi 400. And let me pull this up real quick. Sorry.
Actually, I did just want to,
Mm.
just when we were talking about the bus pirate, I'm like, okay, so I knew him as Dangerous Prototypes on Twitter, but his real name is Ian.
Oh yeah,
That's, I was like, what is his, oh gosh, he's never gonna forgive me.
I've met that guy.
I
Uh,
know, right? But like you're just so used to seeing people's handles. Sorry, we can
yeah,
go back.
absolutely.
I just wanted to correct that before we moved on.
Very considerate. So the Raspberry Pi 500. Here we go. Um, computer in a keyboard form factor. You can see that you've got Ethernet as well as the monitor and power and USB plugged into this Pi 500 here. So it's not just a keyboard. It is more than it seems. And there's some really cool 3D printables people have been making for it. But I was curious as to who are the main people who are using the Pi 400 and now the 500. Is it like largely around academics? Is it people in education? Is it like a my first computer kind of thing? Are like hobbyists mainly using it? Do you have any information on like who's going for this?
Yeah, so it kind of falls into two main categories, I would say. It would be we get a lot of hobbyists because especially ones who like a very like minimalist feel because it gets rid of a lot of cables. But then also we have a lot of an interesting one is a lot of hospitals. A lot of hospitals
Oh,
have been interested
really?
in it. Yeah. Again, because it's very not a lot of cables, not a lot of like it makes everything a lot more streamlined, especially if you're going to have it on like a little desk that rolls around, right? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's been very popular, and then it has been like it's been popular in schools in certain, I would say in certain regions so far. It helps that we, we do multiple keyboard layouts, right? So
Yeah.
it's like adoption as we make more and more keyboard layouts, like adoption then moves into those regions. But yeah, schools, hospitals, and I would say hobbyists. A lot of hobbyists, they really like the Commodore 64 throwback, or
Uh-huh.
I guess for probably it was actually more since it was one of our British hardware designers. It would have been I guess what was it, the BBC Micro? Is that like
Yeah,
that
BBC
was the UK's
Micro.
version of the Commodore 64? This is before my
Yeah.
time, but
Absolutely. And the Sinclair computers as well, all kinds of different stuff. Mm. Oh man. Uh so the Pi 500, very exciting. I did not know this about hospitals. It's often I find these like surprising use cases. So for example, this Kiwix thing I was talking about before, where basically before you got on, there's a system called QX that is open source and only enables you to, for example, run your own version of Wikipedia on a headless server, just serving its own little Wi-Fi network and Wikipedia on there that you can browse and navigate and all that good stuff. And the fact like that they talk about it being a sort of offline personal backup for Wikipedia, but also a lot of the people who use it are people on like submarines who have no
hmm
internet connection. And it's like, of course, like you're on a submarine or even just like on a ship in the middle of the ocean. It's like, oh yeah, I would totally want to be able to settle a Wikipedia argument in the middle of the ocean more than anywhere else because there's nothing else you have to think about. At least not as much in terms of distractions, I should say. I'm sure there's plenty to think about on a submarine, but like these like interesting cases are so fascinating. Wow.
yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see if more people use it to download their ebooks now that when you buy, I don't know if like any of you use Amazon Kindle, but you can no longer download the
I
books.
heard about
Uh,
that.
yeah, so very sad. So I wonder if more people will be storing, I mean, if you have any sort of server in your house, then you can just drop it there too. But a lot of times, I think, and Alex, I think you can sympathize with this. A lot of times when you're making a project, it's not necessarily because you think that you can make it better or cheaper or like it's because you want it to do one tiny, very specific thing, or it's just because you want to see if you can do it. So I feel like a lot of times, other when you make projects, people are like, "Couldn't you have just gone out and bought that?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's not the
Yeah, yeah. Why would you do that? There's all kinds of it kind of dovetails with the next thing I was going to ask you about actually, which is we talked a little bit about transparency in terms of the
point."
IPO and such. And then I noticed two different things from the last year that also show a real dedication to transparency on your end. And one of them sort of ties in with this, like, why would you do this, like hacking for fun kind of thing, which is you ran this challenge, the RP2350 hacking challenge at DEF CON
We
last
did.
year. And the results are out, and not only have you, like, published some of the results here, but also with, like, little, interviews with some of the people who did these. I think this is so cool, and
Yeah.
we get to see some of their if we scroll down way down here, look at this rig. Oh, it's so
I know.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, so that was yeah, it was super cool because we found out that we were going to be on the DEF CON badge. They did a
Ah,
really
yes.
cool. Mara Williams came up with a concept for a really cool game that was interactive, so you could play with each other. It was really cool. It was my first time actually going to DEF CON. It had been on my bucket list for a long
Ooh.
time. Finally got to go. Amazing. Highly recommend everyone go.
Mm.
But yeah, we had talked to the organizers and we're like, yeah, we think we want to do like a bug bounty because this is our first time doing a secure chip. We're giving some of the world's best hackers the chip.
Mhm.
makes sense that like we should ask them, but like make it fun and pay them. Uh, and the DEF CON organizers are kind of like, are you sure you want to do that? And we're like, yeah, like we were really excited about it. And it was no, it was great. It was a great experience. We learned a lot. And yeah, I mean, the whole point of, if you have, if this was our first time doing a secure chip, and we wanted to make sure that before we made it generally available, that that we could stand behind that. And so, like, the best way to do that is to tempt the people who like to break things for fun, and be
This
like,
is
yeah,
absolutely a challenge.
we're like throwing down the gauntlet. We're like please break it. That because that makes our product better, right? I think a lot of times
Hmm.
companies shy away from stuff like that, or shy away from like if they get like constructive criticism or like critical feedback from customers, and we're like, but this is the whole thing. Like you make them for your audience. You want that feedback. It only makes your products better.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was and the other thing that we got feedback was, which is really weird, is that we paid the top price for every break instead of just being like, oh, it's $20,000 split by however many breaks.
Hmm.
And apparently, like we're like, well, that's what we said we were gonna do. Why would we
Hmm.
water down the prize money? Like if it's a break, then it's like it's a unique break. But yeah, like transparency is a big deal to us. We think, I mean, it helps that Raspberry Pi is founded by engineers, ran by engineers. Our CEO, both our CTOs are obviously engineers. A lot of the management structures are engineers. Roughly half the company are engineers. Like it's founded by engineers, ran by engineers, for engineers. So and they remember what it's
Yeah.
like, trying to design products, and everything is kind of structured around that to make it what what did we all wish companies did better? Let's do that.
Yeah. On a similar note, you've partnered to offer carbon credit offsets for Raspberry Pi purchases, which I think is also really cool. Sustainable
Yeah,
solutions with Raspberry Pi. Please go on.
yeah. I didn't actually know we were doing that until like a couple of weeks before we were announcing it. So that was like it was super cool that you can I think basically they crush up a type of rock. I'm gonna murder the name of the rock. But they like and then can spread it across fields. It soaks up CO2 out of the air. I mean, we've been committed to a lot of sustainability efforts for a long time, especially around packaging. So, and that was a
Yeah.
little shocking for a lot of customers because we started out doing ISD coating inside of the boxes so that we didn't have the little plastic wrappers. Um,
Oh,
it's a yeah no it's like it's that was a lot of
I
people at
gotta save
first were
that
like,
one.
oh, where's the anti-static bag? And we're like, no, it's like the inside is now anti-static. To cut
Ah,
down on yeah, so that was a big thing to cut down on packaging.
oh, that's
Also,
discipline.
oh yeah, yep, see,
No
yep,
way.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
I didn't even notice
Um,
that. Now I gotta look at this.
yeah, if you like feel the inside of it,
I'm feeling it.
yeah.
It feels like regular paper, but like I'll take your word for it that there's cool stuff on there. Oh, check it out. You
Um,
got some standards listed on the inside of the box. There's a lot of stuff on the inside here. Some like very useful and interesting, but like here we go. Different types of
yeah,
standards.
because
Um,
we wanted to be able to also, use the same packaging globally. And so there's obviously a
right.
lot of standards, and to try to make sure everything's compliant. And again, that you're not creating any waste. Yeah, we've managed to fit a lot on the packaging.
That's so
There's also
cool.
been a
Besides
lot,
the
yeah,
info. Huh?
yeah. No, I mean, there's also been we've done a lot of also trying to make the uh, the production um, much more efficient. I
Hmm.
wish do I have I'm like seeing if I have an old Raspberry Pi 3D Plus lying around to show you just kind of even like the difference from like upgrading like the how we do soldering. I don't, of course, the one
Ooh.
time I actually need it is like the one time I cleaned my desk for this as if you were gonna see my
Oh, it's
desk.
always a mistake. Never clean
I
your
know.
desk. No. I've got
My
like
Doom piles are no longer here with all of my things to
oh
show.
no, yeah. I got this big giant doom pile of like Raspberry Pi stuff that I sharpied on like what was in each one.
I love
This is
it.
if I had a request, I'd be like, put the name of the thing on the end, but like I don't know. It fits so nicely though. Uh
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's I mean, hey, it's not a bad. I'll submit it as a feature request. Also, like if anybody
I could
if
also just like talk to someone myself. This is not a
so
thing.
yeah, but
Can I
like
get you to troubleshoot my setup right now, by the way, actually? I was kind of hoping you could walk me
depending on
through
what
some
it is,
stuff.
if it's the computer, if it's one of the SBCs, probably. If it's
I
one
believe
of the
you could, yeah.
microcontrollers. um no, I mean it's
Next
like
time.
yeah, we can do it. We could do it live.
I'll
Although
bring my grandpa too and have you explain some computer stuff to him.
do you know my boss is the chief commercial officer, Mike Buffum, and he always says that our goal on using like the Raspberry Pi computers is you want it so easy that like your grandmother can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um or
Or
your
your grandpa.
grandfather or your grandpa. Yeah. It'd be like you want it to just be like they like it's so easy that someone who is not necessarily like a tech enthusiast should still be able to use it out of the box.
Yeah, real talk for a second. I've been hearing from teachers these days and other people that like there actually might be a sort of inverse effect happening now where a lot of kids have been raised on devices like tablets and phones where there isn't a visible operating system or a file system visible. And so like the concept of like saving a file and like manipulating files and stuff is sort of like getting phased out. And it feels like Raspberry Pi is going to be more important than ever in terms of like access to affordable computing. Just to make sure that people know what a computer is and like how it uh, manipulates information. So I feel like Raspberry Pi has a huge continuing role in that. We've got a comment here actually from David who said that he couldn't afford the Pi 400 for his son, so he got a Pi 02W, a cheap mouse, and a keyboard and a TV from the trash and made him his first computer. This is awesome parenting! Top
I do,
tier!
yeah, I love that. Actually, so my very first computer that I owned, like my first like the first computer in my house was this cobbled together monstrosity of parts basically from the recycling bin of my school's computer lab. And I think I was basically we'll call it borrowing the next door neighbor's Wi-Fi. And obviously like when you used to be able to like buy a Windows license like separately, but you had to go and like actually get like a CD and a code, and like that was like
Right.
$150, which like little 14-year-old me could not afford. So then a friend told me they're like, oh, like you should just install Ubuntu on it, and I was like, what's that? And they're like, oh, well, like it's a so like my very first home computer was a Linux based operating this like and then eventually I learned how to acquire licenses. And then I could dual boot it. And so, but like I didn't have my first like actual primary Windows machine until I went to college and I bought one from Micro Center. And then I went on to work at Micro Center later. But my very first Windows machine was from Micro Center. I was 19. It was the first time I mean, obviously I used
Wow.
Windows at school, but like my first home computer was,
Badass. My
yeah.
parents were academics, so they had a computer to write their dissertations on. It was an old gateway with the cow-themed packaging. Uh, but
I remember
yeah.
those. Yeah. That reminds me of like the old commercials where also they'd be like, dude, you're getting a Dell.
I
Ooh.
wasn't allowed to watch TV, so
You
well,
had
no,
a
there was like some
computer.
Nickelodeon, but they didn't like advertise Dells
Okay.
on Nickelodeon, I guess.
Yeah.
But we've also got another hit of nostalgia from Travis, who says he's got an original V1 from the first batch with a QC rejection sticker. It came in a retail box and must have slipped by. It's a
Oh,
collector
did it
item.
have was the rejection sticker, was it one that had it like printed out, or was it like with the little blue dot? I know
I
that
guess we'll
was
find out. Travis,
yeah.
drop a comment if you are still around. In the
Uh
meantime,
oh yeah, that was like the when they were first made at Premier Farnell made them. And I think they launched it at Embedded World like
I would believe
13
that.
years
Yeah.
ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Thought they would it was originally they thought they would only sell 10,000 ever, and they sold over 100,000 the first day and brought down Premier Farnell's website. Yeah.
That's awesome.
If you ever see the next time Alex you see Drew Steeney, he was a systems admin there during that time. He has some interesting stories about how
I
yeah
bet he does.
the uh, the need for Raspberry Pi on the launch week was yeah.
Wow. Oh, a missed solder joint apparently. Speaking of Drew, huge shout out to Drew. I think the first time we met was when you were doing his nails at Teardown or something a few years ago.
Oh
Definitely
yeah, no,
shout
that
out.
would I think it might have been Open Hardware or Maker
I
Faire
believe that,
or
yeah.
SuperCon or any of the other Hackster things that
One
we
of
go
the
to.
above. Okay,
Yeah.
legit. But
Yes.
shout out to Drew.
Everybody knows. Everyone knows Drew.
Also, shout out to Sam Freeman, one of those people we were talking about earlier, where my brain mentally inserts DIY in the middle of your name because I know you by your like handle, assuming you're the same person, which I do assume that. I assume that. Uh, take my liberty. So yeah, just touching really quickly back on the sustainability thing. Loving the transparency. You've got the security challenge that you did. You've got the sustainability, and this blog post really digs down into the process of like how there's I think that carbon credits have been getting kind of a bit of a bad rap because they can be a bit imprecise, they can be vague,
Mhm.
sometimes they're like doubly sold and stuff, and like how are they calculated and all that good stuff. And this blog post really digs into it, which I love. And then also you can find out just a quick overview on the Hackster site, this blog post from Gareth about how you can just like add on an extra $4 to support removing equivalent carbon from the atmosphere with this specific group that's been vetted, which I think is really cool that you're being so clear about that, like how the nuts and bolts of it work so people can really trust in the process.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Transparency is really big to us. Um, we also tend to be, uh, when purchasing from other companies, like as users and consumers, we also tend to be pretty cynical about claims. So we always kind of try to look at ourselves with that same lens, and be
Mm,
like, what would be our own expectations of buying from a company, or if a company is making these claims. And so we try to approach everything we do through like that. Yeah, that I'll say it again, like with that lens of holding ourselves up to the same standards that we would hold our own like personal choices up to.
really cool.
Yeah.
All right. I know that we're technically at noon over here, whatever time it is over there. I think it's probably 3 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple more questions about you for you, just about a little bit of hardware stuff, since that's always very exciting. You mentioned that you have and might be able to show off a new thing from today.
Yes, I have the beta version.
Awesome.
There's this little guy, just called XRP, Experiential Robotics Platform. So this was done. Let's see if how far I can do it without it like blurring everything. So this is a little 3D printed robot that we did. That we are the main hardware on it, but it was designed by SparkFun. Love those guys. So SparkFun worked with um, WPI, Deca Research. Oh gosh, now that I've started mentioning all of them, I'm going to have to remember everybody. Uh, a lot of
I've got
organizations. I know.
the page
There
up
we go.
here, which has a bunch of them.
But no, so this is really good because so it's also in collaboration with First Robotics. Because the idea
What?
that we wanted is like to have an affordable STEM and robotics learning. And so this is like the idea that Dean Kamen, the guy who started First
Oh
Robotics,
yeah,
Segway,
and
yep.
also created the
Uh,
Segway.
yeah, and so like his challenge 2 years ago was it needs to be so that you can take it out of the box and it can be a kid who doesn't even know what a USB cable is can assemble it and start working on it in under 5 minutes. And I think
Wow.
if you time new users, it's around 2 minutes, 2 minutes 30 seconds to be able to assemble this little guy. But then
Wow.
whole chassis is 3D printed. If you go to Proofs of Printables, they did a challenge for making accessories with it. So someone turned it into a tank, which that one was my favorite, so that you 3D print out the tracks and everything. And there's like little games you can do once you have it all set up. But yeah, like it's affordable. It's open source. It was like this huge community effort. There are community colleges that can also make the boards. Then like these can be manufactured locally. But yeah, 2 years, 2 years is lots of work on other people. All we most it was SparkFun did just like such an amazing job. But that launched today on Pi Day. Like it was been in beta for about a year. One of the things that Dean did is he got one of those into every classroom in the state of New Hampshire, which was super cool.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Um, but that runs off of the RP 2350B. It's a little bit flash report, but
Oh.
yeah, it's very. I'm very excited about it. If anyone was thinking about getting a kid or a loved one into robotics, I highly recommend it. Especially if you're into 3D printing, which I am. 3D printing is my first love. Uh,
Yeah.
you can do like my cousin is very interested in robotics, and she's only 11, and so I'm gonna 3D print a new chassis for her in her favorite color.
Awesome.
Like
What's it? What color is that?
her favorite color is blue, so I'm doing like I have a
Yeah.
protopasta glittery like light blue because everything's better with glitter, obviously.
Awesome. We got some excited comments about the XRP kit. So this is using the Raspberry Pi Pico W. As you can see, experientialrobotics.org is the place where you can go to find more out about that. I gotta ask you, okay, so 3D printing, quick
Yeah.
detour.
Yes.
What do you use for modeling? Because I showed before you got on that I've been using Nomad Sculpt to create an enclosure for a Pi running that QX thing I was talking about. And it's
Oh, cool.
really kind of janky yet, and I still have to figure out how to like actually get around to printing it. But for sculpting organic stuff, I'm very excited. I typically use Onshape, the browser-based one, and I can make like very precise things, but not like very
S-
like spiritually fulfilling, creatively, Anyway, what do you use?
Um, so back in engineering school, regardless of what type of engineering you did, your first year of engineering, you had to take Autodesk Inventor. So that's what I learned how
Mm,
to use. So I use, so now I basically use Fusion 360, which is essentially the same. So I use that, but
hmm.
also with the caveat that I don't make anything look pretty. I am very much a type of maker where I like learn the skills I need to finish the project and then make it functional.
Yeah,
Like,
legit.
yeah, so I am terrible at making anything organic or pretty looking, but it will work after a couple of tries probably.
Nice.
Um, so that's the one that I use is just Fusion 360, and because there's so many YouTube videos on how to do stuff after my brain just forgot how to do very simple, uh, like I think I was trying to figure out how to do threaded screws like a couple months ago, and I was like, I completely forget how to do that. But like, it's on YouTube because everybody
That's
uses
one of
it.
those things you always gotta kind of revisit because I don't do it often enough that I feel like I always have to look that up too. Um, There's a question here about the Sense Hat, and I just want to take the chance to brag about the fact that I mean it's a sort of like third party brag. Isn't this on? Didn't one or two Sense Hats go up to the ISS? Isn't this a real thing? Am I making that
Yeah,
up?
yeah, no, yeah, on the yes, there's on the International Space Station. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, there's Pi in space where kids can have their code running in space, which is super cool.
so cool.
Um, in terms of updated Sensats, so like the roadmap is kind of like Fight Club. We don't talk roadmap. And like that's specifically because we launch it when it's ready. And if you see like we launch things when they're ready. And so so we don't ever talk about the roadmap. I would say that if you feel there's a need for a sense hat, you can definitely um, go to the forums and say that because our engineers and a lot of times our CTO and CEO read the forums on an almost daily. I mean, the engineers read them
Nice.
daily, but like
Mhm.
the senior management reads them at least weekly. Like uh, the forums are very important to them, and so like if your voices are heard. So any feature requests you have, any new products you think that we should do, I would highly recommend posting on the forums because they read those religiously.
Nice. Awesome. Well, let's see. I think that we're getting close to wrapping up here. Let me check through my notes because I'm pretty sure I had more stuff to grill you with, but also I don't want to like put us way over time. Mm, we covered most of it. Nice job, us.
Yeah,
Thanks for
yay, yeah. I know.
sharing
I
all your
think,
insights and
yeah, I know. I feel bad that I'm so sorry for the people who wanted to talk more about 2350. Microcontrollers are, I'm actually doing, so like ARM has like a really great online free courses that you can do about
ooh,
over on microcontrollers. So I think it's on Coursera is where I do mine. So I would highly recommend
ooh.
that because microcontrollers are kind of my I guess my weakest spot product wise. So I've been over the past year just been slowly chipping away at their beginning microcontroller. I think it's like seven
I'm really
courses.
curious.
Yeah,
There's
I
like
haven't.
a
It's great.
number of different ones that are coming up here as I'm like digging through, but I'm definitely curious about exploring
It's
these.
the I think it's
Okay.
that first one,
This guy.
that one. Yep.
Ho 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 ho. I'll pull up a bunch of links at the end here, various things that we've talked about. And this is one of them. Go away. Yep. Uh, not you. Ah! Anyway, so cool. Awesome. If you want to learn more about ARM microcontrollers, you can join our amazing guest Samantha Snyder on Coursera there. Then people who are interested in getting involved, especially as sort of beginners or kids or stuff, we've got the XRP Experiential Robotics Kit, which takes up around like 2.5 minutes for a complete
That's
beginner.
Yeah, when we timed it in order to put everything together, because I mean, you basically you put in the motors, you put in the you pop in your little the final board, wire everything, and then there's also like I think I've lost mine because I've played with it too much, but there's like a little plastic arm on the there's one that you put in. But yeah,
Oh, cool.
it's I know I'm just so it's really we're really proud of it. And yeah, SparkFun has been absolutely great. All the partners have been fantastic. Um, but yeah, that launched today, so I highly recommend go check it out. There's already
So
a
cool.
ton of resources out there, and you can use Blockly. If someone doesn't have any experience yet in programming, and it's MicroPython.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, embedded Rust. I've got a couple of friends who are doing embedded Rust. Another topic that I feel like we could dig into in its whole own thing. But like you were saying earlier, it could be really cool to have like a dedicated RP2350 session at some point. There's also this AstroPi challenge, which is really cool. A great way to get young people excited about computer. And then you got Coolest Project, which has an online virtual event as well as a number of in-person events globally. You can find that on coolestprojects.org, and there's all kinds of different stuff that's going to be announced around that. There's also the new Raspberry Pi official magazine rebranding, so if you're looking for Magpie or Hackspace, you'll be able to find it just under Raspberry Pi magazine, and it looks gorgeous. I just gotta say that y'all's design is always impeccable.
Oh,
It's
thank
so
you. I mean, our design
awesome.
team is absolutely amazing, and they do so much. Like it's really like everyone in the company works really hard, but I would say that like one of the like hardest working teams seems to always be like our and they always pull it off. We're like, that's a lot to get done in such a short amount of time. And they always do it, and it's always beautiful, and they never complain. And like the design team, they're saints. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I completely wrote over this too. There's a whole Raspberry Pi hub with tons of really cool projects, and there's so many that I couldn't actually pick many to focus on, but from the last couple of years, there's already well, from this month, there's a really cool one on building a low-cost media center with Raspberry Pi 5. It kind of ties into the whole QX thing. A lot of people are trying, like you mentioned, with like not being able to download Kindle ebooks anymore. Like a lot of people are moving their stuff to sort of localized storage, getting their hands on their own files and stuff, and so lots of movements around the Raspberry Pi community on that. And then also this really cute little designed display. Like, look at this thing. Ah, love it. But there's so much more to dig into on the Hackster platform hub for Raspberry Pi. Thousands and thousands of projects on there. But I also wanted to point out that we've got Hackster News, where you can read more about the sustainability initiatives that Raspberry Pi is doing. You can, of course, also read more about that on the Raspberry Pi blog, as well as I was very excited about the transparency around security with this the hacking challenge around the RP2350 that started at DEF CON last year, and now the results are in. And I love how you say that you ended up awarding the top prize to all 4 people who came up with cracks for that. I think that's just so cool.
Yeah. I think the the one that I was the most shocked by was I think it was the one that used an ion beam. Like I'm like, you just had that lying around, did you? Is that just like,
That's so
it's just yeah,
cool.
you just got it off the shelf, it's fine, like in the basement or something. Yeah, it was
Does your
the
basement connect
dedication was
to like
impressive.
an NSF lab or
Yeah.
something? Oh my God, so cool. Oh, I'm gonna dig into that article for sure. Thank you all for joining. And Samantha, Sam, it's always a pleasure seeing you, and what a joy to have you on the channel for the first time. Thanks so much
Yeah,
for sharing everything with us.
thanks for having me, and I'm sure we'll see each other in person at an event soon.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for joining. I'll update the links in the description after this video is over, and hack on.